¿Qué tal, haters? ¿Cómo están? Les doy la bienvenida nuevamente aquí al canal. Conmigo, su host, el Diablo. Les doy la bienvenida a el canal de El Hater. En esta ocasión vamos a tener un nuevo segmento de su sección favorita, Conversaciones desde el Inframundo. En este día tenemos el honor, estamos de manteles largos, de poder hablar con un músico multifacético, súper talentoso, que tiene muchísimos proyectos, pero ahorita nos vamos a enfocar más que nada en el más reciente lanzamiento que tiene con su banda Anatomy of I. Tenemos aquí en la casa al gran músico Micheal Dorrian. El 23 de febrero lanzaron su más reciente producción, The Lost Anger Sessions, a través de Time to Kill Records, el cual pues realmente es la primera grabación de la banda, la cual fue hecha entre 2005 y 2006, pero que hasta este momento no había sido lanzada. Entonces, vamos a empezar con esto. Micheal, welcome to El Hater. How are you, man?
Hey Mario, doing great. Yeah, I could kind of follow what you said. So yeah,
Yeah,
you got it right, I guess. Yeah, because the
that's
history
great.
of these recordings are a bit confusing to some. So the new record is actually an old one that I managed
Yeah,
to finish during the COVID lockdowns while the guys were working or studying the new album, the new songs. I figured, well, let's just keep busy with something and yeah, just finish that old thing that never got released. So yeah.
yeah, man. Actually, it's pretty awesome that it has been a long time since this was recorded, and when you
Yeah.
hear it, it's very fresh. It's very actual. It's
Oh,
not like
thanks.
you're listening to old school death metal. No, it's like very. I don't know if the word will be innovating, but it never gets boring. It never gets like you can figure out the formula. No, it's very entertaining. I was completely lost when I heard it for the first time. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, man, and I
Cool.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great. No, well, see, the I'm not sure if you're familiar with reamping and all that stuff, but nowadays you can record all these things at home, and you go to a studio, and they take your sound at home, and they well run it through much better amps and make
Yeah.
it sound fresh. So that's maybe part of the part of the trick that we pulled there, because the guitars that you sound have been reamped, the bass has been reamped, the drums were originally recorded at my place on an electronic kit, like one of the Roland kits, and the samples were well, I didn't like the samples back then, so now we used all these superior drummer samples and actually the guy in the studio, it was a studio in Barcelona, Moon Tower Studios. He
Okay.
has some of his own samples as well. So yeah, it's all yeah, it's got a major facelift, so to speak. If I send you the files from 2005, it might not sound as fresh as you're describing it. And
Yeah.
I've added vocals and most of the solos last summer because that was the unfinished part. We had a singer back then, but
Okay.
he pretty much bailed on us, and the whole thing kind of fell apart. The studio was set, and I didn't want to cancel it. I should have maybe canceled it, but yeah.
I don't think so, man. I think that worked out just as it should be
Yeah,
because it sounds really, really good.
cool, cool. Glad you dig
Man,
it. Yeah.
yeah, I really am. I really dig it. I have a couple of questions for you that I would like you to help me to answer.
Okay.
Okay, so can we start?
Perfect.
Okay, Micheal, 11 years have passed since the release of the debut album from Anatomy of I. I know Steve went on to rejoin Testament and Dirk joined Megadeth, both of them amongst several other projects. Lineup changes are the reason to make us wait for so long for new
No,
material from Anatomy of I.
no. So it's a bit confusing, but I'll just try to explain as well as I can.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted that lineup to be also a live lineup. It's not just, I mean, Steve and Dirk do a lot of sessions, and I've known Steve for since like '96-ish or something, and
Live.
I've been his roadie as well in Europe for almost 10 years. So I've known him for a long time. And Dirk, I know from high school actually. He was in my older
Yeah.
brother's class, so uh, he gave my brother this old tape with Master of Puppets on one side and Rain in Blood on the other side, and that was kind of a game changer in like
Yeah.
'89 or something, 1989. So yeah, that was a big deal. So I've known these guys for years. So for me, it wasn't just getting some session guys and recording an album and that's it. I mean, I saw this as a way to get a band going in the shape and form that I wanted it, without compromising with um, other people's abilities or taste as well. If you form a real band with local guys, I expect also to have their influences, their inputs, their ideas, to have a
Yeah.
real teamwork. And that's tough. And I'm not saying I'm always right and I'm not interested in other people's opinions. On the contrary, but it just, yeah, it's challenging to have teamwork, being productive and effective to have a good solution, so to speak, good end result, I have to say. Um, no, so Dirk and Steve, yeah, they were busy. So Dirk was busy with Soilwork and had this agreement that he would only tour with Soilwork. All the projects he did, he said, no, I'm not going to play with you live. He only made an exception for Devin Townsend. And he told me, well, I'll make an exception for you if you book us at a festival, for example, where Soilwork is playing. Yeah, sure, I can do it. So that
Yeah.
was his exception. And Steve was busy with, I think, Death DTA, or maybe not yet. He was busy with a few things, and it was kind of up in the open kind of situation. Um, Tried to get a deal that didn't work. I mean, we got a few deals, but a few deals offered, but it was kind of low end. So
Okay.
I didn't accept it. And after about a year of looking, I finally, oh, less than a year, but after a year, I released it myself
Yeah.
and also figured, well, this is not, I got a reality check, so to speak, because
Okay.
I thought we would just get a label, a good, decent label, sign us and get some gigs, and that everything would kind of be
Work out itself.
rolling with these names. But obviously, Steve and Dirk are engaged in many different projects, and they have their own steady bands. So I guess that's not interesting for festivals or labels. They think, ah, it's one of those projects. They think, ah, fuck it. I mean, some of them were very honest and said, oh, we really like it, but are you going
We
to play
just don't
live?
see it working out.
Yeah, they want no. Well, they want to see me play live. They want to see the real artist. They want to see things. They don't just want to hear an album. Then it's going to be shelved and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So got some good tips, and I looked around for local musicians, and that was quite easy to find with those names. As in, if you just come up to people with great songs, they'll be like, we'll see. I've got 5 bands, and maybe I'll get a 6th one. Drummers, so to speak. That's the
Yeah.
drummer answer. But no, if they're like, oh, I can replace Dirk in a band, oh, cool. Just jump on it. It's great. So I tried local lineups, and I pretty much told them all the same thing. Every person who joined, I'm like, well, we're playing live now. You're officially in the band, and I hope to record the next album with you and not with Steve or Dirk, because I mean, as good, we're still good friends, but
Yeah.
they're doing their thing, and I can't. I mean, that's the main problem in booking gigs as well. You're sending a CD, and they're like, "Oh, that's great, Steve and Dirk," but the guys that are on stage are different. So, what are we going to hear on stage? Is it just a bunch of idiots, or what will it be like? So it's hard to book shows like that as well. So I figured, well, it's important to have local guys who play live, who build it up, and they need to be on a record. So that's what we were working on. And a lot of things happened in 10 years. I mean, we started playing live in 2012 with one lineup. Um, It's how much time do you have? That's going to be a
As
lot of.
long as you can give us. I mean, you are making us a great honor to talking to me for this segment, so I can go on, man.
I know. I'm just afraid to go into too many details, and people will just be like, whatever.
We love
No, but
details, man.
so okay. Well, in 2012, we had an Amsterdam-based lineup. I was already not living in Amsterdam anymore. I moved out to The Hague, which is where the Dutch government is. It's another big town in the Netherlands.
Okay.
We had Melle Kramer on drums. He's from the band. Oh God, he's gonna kill me. I forgot. Obsidian. Sorry, Obsidian. It's they were buddies, I think, with Textures, so they kind of sound in that vein, but more death metal than Textures.
Yeah.
Kind of like Meshuggah Darkane light with death metal vocals. Great drummer. Great time jamming with him. Also, Pepe joined the bass player who plays on the Los Angered album. And we had different guitar players try out, but we always played as a three-piece in 2012. Even though we were rehearsing mostly with 4 people, we always played live with 3 people. Next year, 2013, we changed drummers to Martin van Kruisen. He is a death metal drummer. He plays in Corpse, Dutch slam band Corpse. That's his own band. And he plays in all these other projects. So we did a few gigs with him that year. We rehearsed, the whole year. A few other member changes. Mostly, I don't think I ever fired anyone. It's mostly just people having other priorities or whatever. So it's not me. I try to make it as democratic as possible, but yeah, it's tough. And so Martin was is probably still a professional drummer. So he plays to pay his bills fully. I mean, he teaches as well, but that's what he does. So at some point he had to choose, he had to ditch a few bands and choose a few other ones, and he moved on. And then we found our current drummer, Edwin van den Eden, in 2014. He played in Sinister before, and a few other bands that I'm not really aware of. He played on 2 Sinister albums, and I think he was in the band for like 5 years or something. Great drummer. Actually, people don't know how versatile he is, because on the Sinister albums, he's just playing fast. He's just 250 BPM, just fast. But he's a really complete drummer, and I'm really eager to let people hear about that. But so he's joined in 2014. We've had our bass player, Roderick Ross. He used to play in the Howitzer and his own band. I forgot it. I forgot the name, but I mean, I'm
in so many other projects, man. I mean, you are very prolific in that area.
Well, we all played somewhere. So so Roderick joined in 2013, actually late 2013 or mid, and we have Erwin Harman on guitars. He had this band called Supreme Pain with guys who are now in Sinister, the drummer Toop and the vocalist Ad. He's known those guys he's from Rotterdam, and he's known Sinister since the 80s or something. So I guess he put out that band. I think they have 3 or 4 albums, and it's the band officially still exists. He's gonna release a new album at some point, but right now it's he's just focusing on Anatomy of I. So that's the lineup since 2000. What is it? Erwin joined in 2016. So there were some lineup changes, to put it shortly, and I had kids as well. That takes a lot of time. 2 kids in 2012 and 2014.
Yeah, man.
And what else happened? I had a hernia surgery, double hernia surgery, in 2016, early 2016. Yeah. So when I met Erwin for the first time, I was just,
Sick.
not sick, but I couldn't sit down for more than half an hour. So it was just
Okay.
an introduction, and yeah, we just made plans. I sent in tabs, and we talked, and started building it up again. So yeah, and the songs have been ready-ish for a long time. Now it's fully demoed, 10 songs. It's quite long, actually. I think it's like 51 minutes. Yeah, a lot of stuff, and the guys are learning it. We should be starting the drums pretty soon to record them, or at least we want to jam a little bit on the songs. So this year it will be recorded finally. I mean, we're pushing it back and pushing it back, but it's there. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
for
the
a
reason.
reason. Yeah, and
That's
it's for a
life.
reason. It's not because you are like, oh yeah, later. No, no, there
Yeah.
there are reasons. Yeah,
Well, the pandemic as well just fucked it all up. I mean, it's yeah.
yeah, very hard to all of us.
No, yeah. It's mainly a delay. We couldn't rehearse. We couldn't do anything. So it's just keeping busy with other stuff and recording other, whatever songs I come up with, and yeah, just staying busy. Yeah. So
Yeah,
10 years passed by very quickly. 12 years actually, to be honest. But yeah, I remember when I was a kid, and I was wondering, why is band X, whatever, why are they taking 4 years to record an album? Come on. But I didn't know back then that these people had different things. They had to have jobs or had other things in the meantime. They couldn't just focus on music. I thought they were rock stars and was just living off of music
yeah,
and just doing that full time. But well, I
partying
didn't
all
know.
the time.
Exactly. Partying, playing, recording. Yeah. I mean, other bands, like, for example, Cannibal Corpse, they used to just release albums every 2 years, every year,
Yeah,
and they're still doing it. Maybe sometimes 3 years, but uh,
yeah, not that long. They don't take
yeah.
that long
But it's a
to take
machine. I
care.
mean, they have three main writers, so every 2 3 years you have to write 3 or 4 songs, and you're good. It's not like you have to write 10 songs, though. But I'm
No,
not gonna say anything bad. These guys are great. Cannibal Corpse are great friends, and they have the thickest skin in metal. I think all the I've been reading reviews of their stuff for 30 years now. The reviews are terrible. It's never they're never getting compliments. It's always very negative,
yeah,
and they're the nicest guys actually. See, people give them demos and CDs at every show. Like fans go, oh, I've listened to my band, and these guys actually
listen,
listen to they yeah they actually
man,
you have these
that's
CDs.
amazing.
They have them in the
Amazing.
bus. They're actually listening to them. They're not just like, what is this shit? Ah, fuck it.
Yeah,
They are
very
listening
good
to them. Yeah, yeah. No, they really are listening to these songs.
because they
Not
know
all of them, but
the effort, they know the struggle you won't have to pass to get there. I
yeah,
mean, and they know these guys are just trying to be like them, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, great guys. Just yeah, they always take the time for people because they know that they're, without fans, it's yeah, it's not the same thing.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
well,
it's yeah. We opened for them a few years ago, 2018, I think. We did 2 shows with them in Holland. Yeah, that was went really good actually. Yeah, our best shows maybe. Yeah,
oh,
good sound, good sound. If we had our own sound man and who is not always available, he's the same guy who does sound for Sinister and a few other. He's in local venues and yeah, great guy and with good sound. We play well. So yeah, trying to do a few more Cannibal shows this year, but I'm not sure if
that
we'll
would be
make it.
amazing.
We'll see.
That would be amazing, man.
Yeah.
Next question. We asked our previous guest to make a question, so in the next episode, so this episode,
Okay.
we could ask that question to you. And the question is, if you were not a musician, what would you have wanted to be instead?
I would have played sports. I mean, I do play sports. Yeah. So I started playing tennis at age 6. I was obsessed by it. And when I was around 12 years old, I was obsessed by basketball. And I just was thinking of nothing. I knew I wasn't good enough, but I just thought about nothing else. And then 13 arrived, and well, it was only a year. 13 arrived, and I started playing guitar. But yeah, but I still like sports. I still play sometimes, but when I get the time. Tennis, I guess it's not a very metal sport, even though there are a few metalheads or known people who play tennis. But
Yeah.
and basketball is not known as a metal sport. People associate it with hip hop, and I've had, you know, when I would take a ball and go play, I would hear from my metal friends like, "Why are you playing that you know that I'm not gonna say it, but that black people's sport, so to speak." And when I was there with my metal shirts, the guys were like, "Oh, why are you wearing that shit, man? Why are you just listening to hip hop like us?" Well, that's who I am, you know. It doesn't have to match.
Yeah, it doesn't have to match other people's ideologies, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
I also love tennis, man. I'm a big fan of Djokovic, for example. I follow him, and I watch every Grand Slam every year. So, but you know, it's a very common thing that people think that metal music and sports don't get along. But I'm also a
Or
big
maybe
fan of
just
sports.
American football or something. Something tough. It has to be tough.
Yeah,
I mean, tough. Go take an elbow from a guy that's like 2'10" tall, 150 kilos. If you
yeah,
get an elbow from a guy like that, it's tougher than American
that's pretty
football.
metal.
It's pretty metal. Yeah, no, it's yeah.
Yeah, here in Mexico is also a thing. Most of the people who loves metal, they are not really involved in any kind of sports. And I mean
Yeah.
any kind of sports. It's like, no, man, that's for
It's yeah.
small-minded people. And
I
man,
understand. I've heard it a lot. Yeah, a lot of people who, for example, are from Holland or Italy, where football is very much in the news and discussed and everything. Like they grew up as youngsters, and it was like the metalheads and the football guys, and they were just not yeah not
yeah,
liking each other. It's a common thing.
kind of like in the movies, no, the freakies and the champs.
Yeah, exactly. The preppies and but it's a cliche. It's not
Yeah,
it's
totally.
not entirely like that in real life. A little bit, but yeah.
A little bit, but most of my best friends are also metalheads, and they also love sports. So I think it's getting more common nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. The next question is: the first interactions with music and any sort of art are crucial in our interest on it and how we develop with, into, or away from it. What was the special moment for you where you realized that music, and especially metal, was what you wanted to dedicate your life to?
I had a few revelations like that. I mean, my parents would always play like classical music, and well, they used to live in Sweden, so that all this ABBA and all that Swedish stuff, the 70s disco. I mean, you don't have to live in Sweden to know ABBA, of course, but
Yeah, no.
they had a specific. I don't know. They were making an exception for that basically because it was not their generation.
Yeah.
So I think I was well, how should I say? I had a foundation. My parents also like to listen to jazz, but not the experimental jazz, really the old school poppy poppy jazz, the
Standard.
mainstream. Yeah, the standards, the mainstream stuff. So I was, being exposed to that, and I think I've always had a good ear to recognize intervals and melodies. Um, I guess my first real interest in music was um, when I got two Iron Maiden tapes from a friend, Somewhere in Time and Power Slave. I was like 10 years old. I photocopied the covers like cassette tapes,
Yeah.
photocopied the covers and colored them myself. And the music was acceptable for a 10-year-old. Wasn't horrible. I mean, I heard like the Final Countdown before, that kind of stuff, but yeah, it was just another pop song on the radio, or on TV, you know, the top 20, top 30 kind of stuff. So that was interesting, but I think the real interest started with first that infamous tape I just mentioned. The tape. I mean, Dirk gave my brother a few of those tapes. So one had Master of Puppets and Rain and Blood, and I remember another one that was funny. It was Nuclear Assault and Napalm Death, Scum on the other side. And I had never heard grindcore in my life, and at first I just thought it was just hilarious. It was just funny, but it has catchy riffs though. It's not just nonsense.
Yeah, it's not
So yeah, I got to be like, it is fascinating in a way. It still did not get me into it, but I really got into it. I think when I was like 13-ish, and I wanted to start playing guitar because of hearing Metallica, and I guess that was it. Yeah. And when I started playing, really, that's where I got back into Slayer, and then I just went downhill from there. No, but I needed a few crucial albums to start liking death metal, because I had heard it before on MTV, and I was just, I don't know, it was just kind of blocking me in a way. Not blocking, but I don't know.
keeping you from.
It felt like jumping some sort of fence, like, oh, if you're going there, it's like no way back. But
Yeah.
no, so Carcass Heartwork helped, because I was like, this is like Iron Maiden, Metallica, but with heavier vocals, so it's very acceptable. It wasn't just nonsense bullshit kind of music. To me, as a 12-year-old back then, 13. Yeah, so that started playing guitar because of mainly Metallica and Slayer. Like after 1 year of Metallica covers, I just went straight into Slayer. All the Slayer things. Played in a Slayer cover band. Well, it wasn't officially a Slayer cover band, but we mainly played Slayer and some Sepultura. Did some shows in high school. Yeah. That's where that started. And yeah.
It all started very, very at a young age, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most of the people get into metal on their 30s, 15s. At that
Yeah.
age, there are very few that start even when they are younger, and some of them they don't know metal until they are like in their 20s, and
Yeah.
it's also weird, but I
that's a
guess
bit of an exception when they really
yeah.
get into it after their 20th birthday, so to speak. Yeah, it's yeah, it happens. But
And then they
I
become
forgot
the
one.
hardcore.
Yeah. That would change a little bit. I forgot one, which was Cynic, of course. When I heard that, I must have been 16-ish, around 16. Yeah, I was a bit late to the game. I heard them when I was 16-ish, and I was very interesting because it had all the elements that I liked, but
Mhm.
also this new element of surprise, these new sounds that I wasn't familiar with. And I heard some. I was living in France back then. I heard some fusion here and there. Like there was this band in band in Canada. I forgot their name. I think it was Deebs or something. Let me just double check real quick on my.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's another band. I can't remember the name, but I heard some fusion in music stores, and I kind of liked it, but I didn't really understand it. And once I heard Cynic, I really wanted to discover that, and still could not find the right bands to discover it. So only when I got into college, moved back to Holland to go to college, and that's where I met a few people who were into like the 70s fusion, and that's where I really discovered Return to Forever with Chick Corea, Stanley Clarke, Aldi Meola, all very proficient musicians, and this super group, so to speak. and other fusion acts like Alan Holdsworth, yeah, just Magma from France, also a very interesting band. They're quite avant-garde-ish and have all these different all these
Yeah,
different
very
elements in
awesome.
their sound. So that really opened a lot of. Uh, it inspires me. I play a lot of stuff that is inspired by that, but you don't really. I don't think you really hear it in Anatomy of I. It's not really there. Um, it's not really there in the next one either. No, it's. I mean, there are some time tempo changes. That's kind of jazzy, I would say. But it's yeah, those are influences, but you don't really hear it back in the sound, which is acceptable. I mean,
Yeah,
when you have a song in your head, it's different than when you just pick up a guitar and start playing something and find riffs. It's different. So yeah,
yeah, man. But for example, with this latest release, I can totally hear several and very diverse influences on the writing of the songs, because
Mhm.
and you cannot tell, oh, this guy is copying or taking this is kind of structure from that artist,
Yeah,
or this sounds a lot like that artist. No, you can hear that it takes a lot of inspiration from a wide world of sounds outside of metal, but it's impossible to say, oh, this is taken from this place and this comes from that artist. No, it's
no,
not that simple, and that is amazing. I mean, when I heard the album like for the fifth time, it 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 was still shocking. I was very dragged into just shutting myself to the outside world and just listening to it.
well, thanks. But so, how do you compare? I have a question for you. How do you compare the Lost Angered sessions to our debut Substratum? How do you because there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of songs that have been reworked and
Yeah,
sound a bit different. So how do you compare them? How do you see that?
I will have to say that for me it sounds like a totally different beast,
Hmm.
because in its core it's basically it's the same band. No? It's Anatomy of I. Sorry, man. It's
The
Anatomy
Bible.
of I. Yeah, but I mean, I can recognize the aggression, the feeling, the tempos, and some kind of structures on the riffing and the melodies. But this album that it's funny, like what happened, no? Is the first recordings of the band. It has a very transcendent, a very, I don't know how to say it, opening opening mind, or man, it's just so so
Atypical or something. Yeah.
atypical. It's because in death metal you almost hear the same structures
Yeah.
over and over again in a very large amount of bands. But with this new album, with the Lost Anger sessions, I can tell that you, like you said, you took the time to work the songs the way they deserve it, and it just pays out, man. Because a debut album is an album, well, where you can take the opportunity to present your band and your ideas and your art to the world, and maybe that causes you to take some kind of precautions, not to be too audacious,
Yeah.
too crazy about the things you
I
write
released.
and you
Yeah.
play, because you don't want to people to run away from what you're doing. But that that kind of shows in the first album. But in this new material, well, I don't feel that fear, that restrictions. I can say I can totally feel that it's a very free album. It's an album that it has a lot of passion, unchained creativity, and it has the capacity to open your mind to a new kind of death metal, a new kind of melodic, progressive. I don't know how to describe it. It's a very unique kind of death metal.
Yeah.
The different, for me, it's a totally different beast from the first album. And I got to say, I completely love this album, and I prefer it to the first one.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks, first of all, for all the compliments. I mean, where to start? A friend of mine used to say like that he liked the first album of every band because that's where we would always see the influences. So
Yeah.
he liked, like, for example, Show No Mercy. He liked that more than Raining Blood or something. I mean, yeah, to everyone that sounds insane, but he liked to hear the influences where bands would come from, and more power to him. But I usually we always look at that as like a childhood mistake of, well, the first album you're still raw, you don't know really where it's going, and that's what it ends up sounding like. So I kind of have that feeling for this new album, as in the recording from 2005 and 2006, that I wanted it to be a little bit more heavy, but the drummer was into thrash and System of a Down and Mastodon, and I don't know what else. I mean, he listens to a lot of stuff. So a lot of the influences in his drumming was maybe more tribal, more maybe a bit System of a Down, or more thrash, and not death metal at all. He barely listened. He knew some stuff, but barely listened to death metal. And the bass player is more into, well, also broad amount of taste, as in he wasn't obsessed. Both the drummer and the bass player were not obsessed on being death metal musicians. They just wanted to play metal, thrash metal. Yeah, that's what they wanted to do. So maybe that has an impact as well. I kind of adapted the songs a little bit to them, and also from trying to launch this band before, and we were always looking for a drummer, and we could never find a drummer that suited us.
It's tough.
And but it's the typical guitar player kind of nonsense, where we like to program stuff real fast and just play real fast, and then we're like, okay, let's find a drummer now, and then you can't find one who can play this stuff correctly. Because I mean, a lot of times it's very exaggerated. And some people actually just listen to, I don't know, like the really fast stuff, Behemoth or Belphegor or whatever it is, 280 beats per minute,
Yeah.
Nile, and they expect to find a local drummer who can play that stuff. So I wasn't in that category, but still, I wanted like some guy like Gene Holden or Sean Reinert or whatever, someone who's really, well, not just fast, but also very proficient in feel and creativity. And you can't find people like that on every street, so to speak.
Okay.
So that was always a pain in the ass. So at some point, it was more like, okay, let's make it just thrashier. Let's go for the thrashier vibe. And I met these guys in 2005, early 2005. The singer was actually working in the same building where I was working, so that's how I got to know all those guys. But yeah, that just didn't work out. So you don't hear the singer on there, and you will never hear him. That's as simple as that. I mean, yeah, it's. But your initial question was, yeah, for all the influences, yeah. I'll just say that I knew that this would attract also a different kind of audience. I was convinced that some people will just like this one, other people will like Substratum more. Yeah, it's what it is. I mean,
they are very different one from another. both are great. I mean, both are great albums, but yeah, it is both are for maybe different kind of death metal lovers. No, if you dig the first album, maybe this one will not be so good for you, and vice versa. You know?
Yeah, yeah. But plus, it's funny because some people call the Substratum like old school tech. Because nowadays
Old
tech is
school
just
tech.
yeah. No, nowadays tech is just so that
Yeah,
you know that kind of bands like Death, for example, are seen as old school tech, and yeah, that's what the youth of today is saying. Um, I guess we're old school. After, I mean, for me, old school is like Old Morbid Angel from the '80s, but
yeah,
or Possessed. That's old school. But
yeah.
yeah, I guess we're old school now.
I guess
But
what they mean is like the old school is prioritizing melody over technique, and not the
mm,
other way.
yeah,
Nowadays they prioritize technique, and they use technique
and speed.
as a foundation from building their melodies, and not the other way around. And I like the other way around, actually,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old
yeah,
school way.
yeah. And I'm getting that impression from when I look at feedback from South America and then Central America. Yeah, they're still into the stuff that we grew up with in the '90s, or at least I grew up with in the '90s. It seems like they're not stuck in time, but they know what they like, and they just don't jump on every trend. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's. I remember in the old times of MySpace, we got a lot of followers from Brazil, Argentina, and yeah, it's Mexico as well. Yeah, so yeah, they really like their stuff. But then MySpace fell, and
yeah,
I lost all those contacts. I can't just send them an invite and say, "Hey, you remember us?" But yeah, it is what it is. We'll play live there someday. I don't know when, but yeah, it's
hopefully,
there's still a lot of work to do to get the band to grow, and because mostly we get positive feedback when people hear us. It's just
yeah,
that it's hard to be heard in all this multitude of releases and media and everything. Yeah,
yeah.
nowadays you need a solid media machine in order to get out there. Else people just won't hear it. And I keep seeing comments like, "Oh, this is great. How come I've never heard this before?" Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
every
life.
day. Every day
Yep.
we're being bombarding from a lot
Yep.
of material that comes out
Yep.
every day, and
Yep.
it's hard to keep up with all the
Mm,
releases. I mean, I try to listen to at least one or two albums a day because I make reviews, but
mm,
you should see my email, man.
yep.
It's just stuck with all the emails that I get from labels, from artists, that this is the new single, this is the new album, this is the new EP, this is a new compilation, our new split. Sorry, and man, I don't think anyone has the time to just keep up with the rhythm of the
Yeah.
music industry nowadays.
Yeah, I wanted to also go back a little bit and say that I might not be the person to follow everything that comes out as much as other people. Like some of the guys in the band are really following the latest trends and the latest things that come out. But yeah, I do look for them sometimes, and I am still surprised by some new bands now and then, and I do get into that. It's not that I'm not stuck in the '80s or in the '90s, but yeah, it's not as common. I mean, it's different. Of course, if you're growing up as a teenager, when you discover all these bands, it's like a kid in a toy store. You're just discovering everything, and after a while, you've had that discovery phase, and of course, it's not as exciting anymore, unless there's some new extraordinary band with a new sound, or something fresh at least. Yeah, that's always
Yeah,
interesting. I remember hearing the first Skeletal Remains. I was like, "Hey, this sounds like the good old days, but it sounds fresh for some
yeah,
reason." Yeah, so that was a cool discovery. I think I was 2014 or something, a while ago. Yeah. Nah, there's other stuff, of course. I just,
lots of.
yeah. It's one of the examples I just thought of. yeah. So your initial question, I completely forgot, but it was about the debut album, about it being, yeah, transcending somehow. Yeah, I think it's different influences from different people, and also the songs. I didn't just write them in 6 months. I didn't write them in 8 months. I had those songs for a while, and I changed them X amount of times. And while I was jamming with other friends, and we basically in college, I had two friends. We all three played guitar, and it never got anywhere because we were all playing guitar. So, but we changed styles a lot. We wrote different kind of songs, and yeah, sometimes it was more death metal, sometimes it was more thrashy. One of the guys was into black metal and keyboard symphonic black metal.
Okay.
So he was more into that. Wrote some cool riffs as well. But all this to say that I was also adapting my material a little bit to them and finding new things. And so it's a lot of influences in there. Yeah, not really black metal because I really started listening to that in like the late 90s. I didn't like the first few waves of black metal, the raw ones, but
Yeah.
I've always liked Emperor, I guess, and I really like the progressive Norwegian bands from the last 20 years or so, like all the Borknagar, Arcturus, Wintersorg. What else is there? Enslaved nowadays are very progressive. Isan, of course. I think they're really pushing things forward from a extreme metal point of view, I guess, in Europe. I guess other countries are more redoing the same thing. In general, I'm just off the top of my head. I didn't
Yeah.
think about this for a long time, but to me, they're pushing it a little bit more. Yeah, they're experimenting a bit more, and I guess it also has a commercial, how to call that?
Approach.
No, but it's not the approach, but because they're already established, because they're signed, they have the contacts, they play live, and I think they have more freedom. They can experiment a little bit without fearing that they'll lose their entire fan base. And
Okay.
I think on the mainland we're a bit more conservative about our sound because we're afraid to lose our path or something. That's I don't know why exactly, but that's one of the impressions I get. I mean, yeah, even the more mainstream black metal bands in Norway have some cool stuff as well. Even though I might not be a big fan or something, but yeah, Satyricon, for example, has a lot of repetitive stuff, but they have some cool stuff as well. It's
Yeah.
I like catchiness in music. I'm not into just tech for tech. It has to be catchy. And if you look at Cynic, for example, people call them tech, but I think they add depth. It's just instead of just playing the simple chords, they add a few extra textures and
Yeah, they are
that,
dynamic.
yeah, dynamics, depth. That's what they're adding. And for me, catchiness is number one. And if there is some depth, then you can only listen to it longer. After else you're bored after listening to something 10 times in a row.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and tech is boring. Even though I do like a lot of tech stuff, when I listen to it now, for example, something I used to love in the 90s, I'm like, oh, I know this already. I've heard it a million times. This specific song, and yeah, that's it. It's gone. It's I've heard it, been there, done that. Yeah, it's yeah. But I do enjoy it still. I mean, Necrophagist, very good band, of course. They released their best album in like 2003. I think they're very good. It's catchy. It's not boring. But there were a lot of bands after that that tried to copy that, and it's just not hitting with me. You know, I'm just it's not as catchy. It's not as good, and yeah. Um, but see, I need to rewind here because I'm not a reviewer. I'm not press. I'm also trying to get my thing out there, and
Yeah.
I know how hard it is to put out the simplest band with the simplest music and try to get a following. And so I'm not really criticizing other bands. It's more maybe criticizing trends and
Yeah.
encouraging people to. I mean, for example, you mentioned it before. I was not aware of the fact that bands would take a song that they like and replace every riff with a riff of their own, but keep the same structure and same kind of beats. And when I found out that bands were doing that, I was just shocked. Just disappointed. Disappointed was
Yeah.
the name of the feeling. Because yeah, I thought it would always start from a riff or melody or vocals or drum beat, the natural way. That's how you write the song. But when I found out that established bands were actually taking songs they liked from their inspirations and just replacing the riffs, it's just disappointing. Yeah, it's that's not
Heartbreaking.
no, but it's disappointment. It's just I'm not married to those songs. It's just it feels so cheap. I would
Mm,
you're cheating your fans by doing that. You're cheating yourself. You're not writing. You're just you're
yeah, yeah.
just and I have nothing against cover bands or yeah, doing covers, but that's a different thing. You're paying
It's a
tribute to
cover band.
someone. Yeah, you're not saying, "Oh, this is my new song," and it's just I don't know, South of Heaven, and you just replace the riffs with something that sounds a bit the same, and it's your riffs or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cheating your
but
way up
yeah, well, it's
or
not
down.
necessarily it's not necessarily like that, but you're just making something a bit too easy, maybe, or it's too much of a commercial approach, I would say. I don't know.
Dishonest also, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, in the end, if people want to buy it, people like it. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. I
Maybe it's a
can't.
little romantic, but maybe it just
Yeah,
has to be with what kind of fans do you want to also,
yeah,
because
exactly. Yeah,
I don't think you will want fans like who dig that kind of stuff, like wanting you to repeat yourself over and over again
hmm
in every passing album. I don't think
yeah,
you want that kind of fans.
yeah, yeah. No, true, but yeah, it's tough because the older you get, the more you realize that even underground metal is very commercial. And what I
Yeah,
mean by that is there are bands out there that have a known band name, a known logo, so to speak, and they just tour on that. And it doesn't matter what the new album sounds like. It doesn't matter who's in the band, as long as there's a couple of originators in there, and it kind of sounds like the band, and they play one new song, and the rest is all old songs that people recognize. People are fine with that. But as soon
yeah,
as you say, "Oh, this is the new band of this one guy from whatever known band," people are not buying it. They don't care. They want that fucking logo. They want
yeah,
that, which is, I mean, you can do that. I mean, have a band, long running band, just quit after 20 years, and they change the logo because there are too many new guys. It's going to be a commercial failure. If you keep the same name, same music, same guys, people are like, oh yeah, they're back, great. But it's buy their albums, and I can't blame them on. I can't blame them on. Sorry, I need to speak properly. I can't blame that on people. I mean, I'm like that as well in a certain way, to a certain extent. It's just the nature of us. We like a certain thing, and yeah, it also has to do with promotion. I mean,
of course, of
if they
course.
change the name, they don't get the label they used to have. They don't get promoted as well, and it doesn't get the same reviews, and doesn't get the same exposure. Yeah,
Yeah, the
it's
treatment is not the same from anyone.
mm, no.
And now that you are touching that theme, the next question is related. Do you ever get frustrated with the amount of reward, credit, and obviously profit that the metal music gets?
How do you mean exactly?
I mean the the attention, the promotion, the money that the metal music gets in comparison with all the other genres, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, it's tough to answer because when you're in a scene, you can even if it's an underground scene, you have something to cling on to. You have your venues, you have your bands you can open for, you have a path. There are ways of finding an audience. And in pop music and rock music, the very commercial, popular, so to speak, genres, you don't have this what's the word? This fan base, this really reliable fan base. You really have to be like Muse or something to have a real fan base.
Yeah.
Really big bands have fan bases, but the more underground pop rock bands, they're just, they're playing in bars. They can play in any bar. That's cool because metal bands can't. You have to have your special metal bar, right? So these guys play anywhere, but who's in the audience? Just tourists or whoever happens to be there. Nobody's going to buy their CD. Nobody cares. Actually, they're enjoying their nights, but they're more busy with themselves than with
They
the
are
band on
background
stage.
music, like elevator music.
Exactly. And they might be very talented, but for the audience, they're just entertaining them in their evening, and they're just busy drinking, having fun with friends, not really focusing on the music. Same for techno. It's more about the people dancing and having fun. They know, of course, they want music that they like. They want to hear music that they like, but it's all about them having a nice party. And you go to a metal show, you have people watching the stage. So the stage is the main thing. They want, and they're paying attention to what's on the stage. So from that aspect, underground bands are, I guess, luckier than if you want to start a pop band, because then you're just nowhere, I guess. So in a way, we're fortunate. In other ways, of course, it's nowhere near the money of see, with all the downloads, illegal downloads and streaming and all that stuff. Very popular acts are able to change their way of income. They can just be trending somehow. They can be like influencers or whatever. They can have some companies sponsor them to promote these products or whatever. And in metal, the known bands are putting out their own beers, their own wine, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you can't really complain. It's nowhere near the same level, but yeah, it's see, the older I get, the more I notice that, in the late 70s, early 80s, you had punk music. That was a generational thing. And thrash and death metal, that's our generation. And it's just our thing. That's how I look at it more and more. And it doesn't have to be popular. I'm not an angry teenager anymore who's angry because not everybody likes metal. I couldn't care less. I mean, when you go to a festival in Europe, you see thousands of people. And if you go to a regular show as well, there's always a lot of people. So we're not in a bad place. And at least the metal audience is more, what's the word? I'm at a loss of words. I'm not finding the word. It's
selective.
No, it's not casual. It's not casual as pop music mostly is. A lot of casual listeners. Yeah, they're more faithful. They're really following your stuff. And whereas more popular music sells much more, but people are just interested in that one single. Oh, I like that one single from that one band. Name another song. I have no idea, but I like that band. And it's acceptable. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying how it is. So in a way, we're lucky. We might sell less, but we have a faithful following in general. Yeah. So
it's very weird when you're finding a person in the show that doesn't really dig the band. Almost everybody in that room will be there because they intended to be there. They want to watch the full show. They want to sing. They want to slam. They want to make a wall of death or anything you can think of. They meant to be there because they actually love what they are seeing.
Yeah, they come for the band. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I've seen different things though. It's a good point as well. I went to, I've been to mainstream concerts and I've seen fights there that I've never seen at. I would see. There were rumors when I was a teenager. People were saying, "Oh, Slayer gigs, very violent. Ooh, watch it." Nothing really happened. I guess the first show I went to in '95, Slayer in '95. With Dirk, by the way. I was with friends and we met up with Dirk as well. There were some skinheads or something, and they got beaten up. Whatever, but that's. I saw something in the distance and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Whereas at a mainstream gig, I've seen a few mainstream people would just get drunk and start fighting randomly, just nonsense fights. And it was like Jamiroquai or something. So the people were obviously not there for the music. That's what I'm trying to say. And even if metal is being seen as something violent, people are there for the music. They're not there to beat someone up. Not really. It's
metaphorically, just metaphorically.
Yeah, there are some slams, the pit and everything, but that's just releasing energy. It's just fun. Nobody's really fighting. Sometimes there are some little arguments, but it's not real. Yeah, people are not out for aggression. They're not there to beat someone up. They're just
no one means to hurt anyone.
Yeah,
it's just fun. It's just kind of a ritual for us.
Yeah,
a bonding ritual. Yeah, man.
Primitive bonding. Yeah. No.
Maybe, but we love it, and it's been there like forever, and I don't see a day where it ends.
Well, we had the lockdown. I have to be honest. For 2 years of lockdown now, it's hard to get used to that again. We need to start rehearsing again and start playing again. It feels weird. It just, there are some shows coming up now. I think I'm Morbid is playing here in April, which I'll probably go to. I've seen them already a couple of years ago, obviously before the pandemic, and it was basically seeing old Morbid Angel. And now with Pete Sandoval, it's going to sound even more like old Morbid Angel. It's curious to see how I'll experience that after just 2 years of no shows at all. And I can't even remember what the last show was that I saw. I just seriously can't remember what it was. But I'll remember in a bit. Yeah. Oh, no, I know. It was our own show. We did a show here in The Hague with Acrid. It's kind of a old school tech death kind of band from
old school.
I think. Well, I have to say old school. They might be more like At the Gatesy kind of. No, I think what's that band again? I think they like Lamb of God and stuff like that. They're a bit more hardcore now, but also kind of Swedish. Let's say At the Gates meets Lamb of God a little bit, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they've been around since like '94 or something. They're not
a while.
Yeah. They mainly play in the Netherlands. I don't think they've ever played abroad. Maybe they did. I don't know. But good guys, and we're probably going to try to do more shows with them. Acrid, ACRID.
Acrid.
Yeah.
I will look for it.
They're on YouTube. It's pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Perfect, man. Man, I have a last question for you, if that's okay.
Oh, sure, yeah. I'm not keeping track of time, but I had some audio editing to do.
Yeah, man. You've been around in the metal world for a while, and obviously you know what it takes to get there and what stops you from get there. So in that spirit, what can you say to the young metalheads that right now are thinking and working to dedicate their lives to music?
Well, I think I think the world hasn't changed that much, actually. As in, we think that now we have to do a lot of promotion online. We have to be finding followers. We have to create content. I mean, obviously, some videos are nice. I should do more of that myself, to be honest. But yeah, in the end, it's the most important thing is to have good songs and to play live and yeah, and get a following, a local following. Just start the good old way with a local following, because if you have a local fan base, people will like, I mean, venues will like to book you because
Yeah.
they know that you will bring those 30, 50, 80 people to your show. And you have to work on your sound and not necessarily be the most original on earth, but just yeah, the best, whatever that means. I mean, there are some bands here in the neighborhood that play all the time, and people are just tired of them. They're not bad, and they're good people. They're nice guys, but they're just yeah. They always, if you go to the venue, you always see them. So that's yeah, the negative part of that. But if you want to be an exclusive band that plays live only once a year, you're not gonna get anywhere. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
that would be the best advice. I mean, in the end, yeah. Sometimes it's good to work on your songs for one extra year, then put out a shitty album. That's also a good one. Or like I've seen songs suddenly pop up of a band, and I really like one specific song, and that really, and I noticed that other people have the same feelings about that, and that's what makes them grow. And they didn't release 3 albums and 2 EPs, and um, I see many bands trying to be professional by releasing material every year or a new EP, a new that, and then announcing it as if it's the best thing in the world. But I think it's better to focus on the quality of the material. And I'm not saying per se that my material has quality because I'm taking 200 years to record one song. But no, but see, I don't take much time to record a song. I just have them, I rework them, and then the personnel changes. I change the parts a little bit, and the longer I wait, the longer the more the songs are being morphed again. So yeah, I'm doing my best to release quality instead of quantity, and
yeah.
I think that's the way to go. But yeah, obviously, there's a lot of luck, connections as well. You have to know the right people, and yeah, there's a
Patience
lot
is
of
a virtue.
yeah. One important one is that all 4 or 5 members, 3 members of the band are all aligned with the same goals. Because if one of the guys is more into just his day job, and another is unfocused, and a third guy really wants to be a rock star or something, if your intentions or your goals are different, then it's not going to get there. And if you go back to all those, young Metallica, for example, they were like
Yeah.
teenagers. They just wanted to be on that stage. That's all they thought of. And yeah, those are actually, if I look back from a nostalgic point of view, the best days of being in a band was either when I was playing in my cover band every Saturday. We were playing the whole day, jamming at a friend's house, jamming covers every Saturday, the whole for 2 years or something. Or, for example, the first year of Anatomy of I would also jam every single week, sometimes twice, right before a show. We would play twice a week, and we really had this flow going where the songs were second nature. It wasn't like rusty in any way, and it really felt like a progression. In the end, it's a process. It's not just you can't just think of the goal and get there. It's a daily process, and if you enjoy the process, then those are the best times. And now we need to go back to that and rehearse on a regular basis again, because I mean, I'm meeting up with the guys sometimes and we're going through riffs, but it's never the 4 of us together playing instruments. We had some listening sessions where the 4 of us are going through the songs and taking notes. But yeah, we need to start jamming now again, now that the lockdown is not there anymore. So
Yeah.
and hopefully will not come back anymore. So yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Perfect, man. Actually, like you were saying, I had a conversation with Chris Sullivan from a band called Wolftooth, and he has kind of the same approach you have towards the new tools for promoting your work, and he and I agreed that the old school way, the more organic way to create a fan base and create a name for yourself, it's the old way, just playing live and getting your work maybe mouth to mouth, and that way it is the best way to get a fan base and to get your work to the right ears.
Yeah, because the goal is to play in a good band and be happy with the material and be happy with your songs, be happy with your performance, and feel like you're in the best band that you could be in.
Yeah.
And people lose themselves by thinking, oh, we have to make a career, we have to go on tour, we have to this and that, and they lose their original purpose. That the purpose was to play cool songs and not necessarily to desperately get on some tour and finish your album as quick as possible and spend like 80% of your time on promotion and only 20% on actually rehearsing and composing. And I'm not saying this or that band does that, but it's a feeling I'm getting. And also when we have to promote our own thing, I'm getting the feeling that I need to spend way more time on promotion, which I'm not doing enough. I know that, but yeah, it's it's a new start, and we're gonna make the best out of it. And see where that strands.
Yeah, man. I really hope you can do that, because definitely the work and the music you and the guys are doing with Anatomy of I, it needs to be get out there. It needs to be heard by tons of people, because it's great. It's a very good kind of art. It's great music, and I think it deserves all the attention and all the promotion and all the recognition it can get. So,
Thank you very much,
Michael, those are the questions I got for you.
Okay.
I really appreciate your time and your honesty to talk about you and your work and all of the dynamics and all the work that is behind the music that you are presenting to the world through Anatomy of I. I really enjoy our conversation. And
Likewise.
for last thing, can you help us to make a question so we
For the
can?
next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
What would you like to ask the next guest?
That's a tough one because I don't know who the next guest is. But so the question I got was the career move. What else would you do if you wouldn't be playing music?
Yeah.
What can I ask?
Yeah, it can be related to music or a more, I don't know how to say, personal, because, like I said, we try to present the people behind the artist too. So it can be wherever you want.
Yeah, and I don't want to come up with a dorky question like saying, "Oh, do you think theory is more important than being self-taught?" That's a very cliche question that can go anywhere. Let's see. Maybe a good question would be, where do you see a certain flow? I mean, a certain genre go in the next 10 years? Death metal, or for example, where would you see the trends go? Because now, like we were talking about the ultra techie stuff, Yeah, we have, of course, a lot of bands influenced by Meshuggah, with all the polyrhythms.
Yeah.
So the question would be, where do you think underground metal would evolve to in the next 10, 20 years? What is the next big thing in 2040?
Okay.
Or 30 to make it easier?
Yeah.
Where do you think it's going? Because I remember in high school, I was just thinking, well, things are getting heavier and heavier. What if like really aggressive death metal will be mainstream? And people are like, that's never going to happen. And then you had like the deathcore bands that were selling 500,000 albums. Like, what?
Yeah, man.
So yeah, it kind of can happen. Yeah.
It could happen. Yeah, man. Well, we will take that question and we'll ask it to the next guest. It's another death metal artist. It's actually a death metal Mexican band that is called Introtil.
Okay.
So
I don't know them. No.
yeah,
I'll check it
they
out
will
if you
tour
send
in
it to
Europe
me.
this year.
Sorry?
They will be touring Europe
Okay.
this year,
Cool.
so maybe you will catch them
Yeah.
in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thanks again,
Thank
Michael.
you.
And haters, eso sería todo por esta nueva edición de Conversaciones desde el Inframundo. Espero que les haya gustado. Si fue así, no olviden apoyarnos con su like, su suscripción, únanse a la horda hater y sigan el trabajo de Anatomy of Fire. En la descripción del video voy a dejar los links relacionados a este último lanzamiento y obviamente los links relacionados a la banda y a Micheal Dorrian. Haters, nos estamos viendo en el siguiente video. Por favor, cuídense mucho. Hasta luego.